I am a concubine's daughter in the manor, famously known as the laziest and most gluttonous in the entire household. Yet my elder sister has just assigned me to seduce a stern and ruthless general. When I heard her say this, I was stunned speechless, my mouth still stuffed with sweet red bean buns that I hadn't finished swallowing, my cheeks puffed out like a squirrel as I stared at her in utter bewilderment. What? Me? This general has achieved countless military honors and wishes to propose to my elder sister. But she is determined to marry the gentle scholar who recently passed the imperial examination, as refined and elegant as moonlight on water. She simply won't give a rough military man like him a second glance. The general is especially favored by His Majesty. So if he truly comes to propose, our family cannot refuse. My elder sister devised what she thought was a brilliant scheme. She told me to stake my virtue and force the general to marry me instead. I returned to my courtyard with a worried expression, and my mother was calmly sewing clothes for me. Seeing me sigh deeply, she smiled and said, "Child, you know nothing of music, chess, literature, or painting, and spend your days only eating, drinking, and playing around. How could the general possibly take a liking to you?" "Don't worry about such nonsense," I protested indignantly. "Mother, don't underestimate me. Who knows? I might just make my move and have the general so enchanted he simply must marry me." My mother rolled her eyes and held up the garment to fit on me. She patted my soft belly and said with mild irritation, "Eat a little less. You're getting plump again." Then she let out the waist of the dress by several inches. The maid Jade came in carrying a bowl of steaming hot dumplings. Smelling the wonderful aroma, I happily kissed my mother's cheek. My mother made a disgusted face and said, "If you get any larger, you really won't be able to marry anyone." I tugged at her sleeve playfully. "Then I won't get married at all. I'll stay by mother's side my whole life." My mother poked me in annoyance, chiding me for saying foolish things. That night, I didn't return to my room, but stayed in mother's chamber. Mother fanned me gently, driving away the summer heat, her delicate eyebrows slightly furrowed as she gazed intently at the patterns on the bed curtains, lost in thought. I took out a bracelet I had hidden in my clothes and put it on her wrist, smiling as I said, "Mother, happy birthday." My mother's eyes reddened as she held me tightly. I leaned against her shoulder and said softly, "Mother, don't go begging the First Lady. Trust me, I can handle this matter properly. Among the 3 concubine daughters, in terms of appearance, I have nothing outstanding, and in terms of talent, I rank dead last. Yet my elder sister chose me to seduce the general. Clearly, the First Lady ordered her to do so. The First Lady wants to force my mother to take her side in the struggle against Lady Mai, who recently entered the manor. Lady Mai has been greatly favored by my father lately and secretly doesn't regard the First Lady at all. Even the daily morning and evening greetings, she often makes excuses not to attend. The First Lady cannot swallow this anger, so she wants to force my mother to return to the battlefield of the inner court. You must know that 4 years ago, my mother was the master strategist in these internal battles. The servants in the manor often gossip behind her back, saying my mother is a fox spirit, skilled at bewitching others. When my mother heard this, she just smiled softly and then taught me the secret arts of managing men. The First Lady regards my father as her beloved husband, loving and respecting him completely. Lady Chen treats my father as a money purse, constantly flattering and serving him. Lady Wen sees my father as her cherished lover, always clinging to him affectionately. I nestled in my mother's arms and humbly asked for instruction. "Mother, what do you see father as?" My mother burst into hearty laughter. "I see him as a passing cloud," she continued matter-of-factly. "Your father is a 4th-ranked official in this capital city. He's neither high nor low in status. During the day, he works hard outside handling government affairs, having to flatter his superiors and intimidate his subordinates. When he returns home, just one glance and he must rack his brains to deal with the First Lady, listen to Lady Chen's various performances, and comfort Lady Wen's broken heart." Hearing this, I commented, "Father is no different from a performer in a theatre troupe." My mother poked me in annoyance. "What kind of talk is that for a proper young lady?" But her eyes sparkled with amusement, clearly agreeing with my words. Finally, my mother concluded, "In short, Treating him like a passing cloud makes everyone more comfortable. But in the inner court, some receive favor while others fall from grace. Father visits my mother more and more frequently, while Lady Wen's quarters have become cold and desolate. 4 years ago, when my mother was pregnant with what would have been my little brother, Lady Wen secretly had poison placed in her food, causing the loss of the unborn child. Father was furious and wanted to drag Lady Wen to the courtyard and beat her severely on the spot. In the end, it was my mother who pleaded for mercy, saving her life, though Lady Wen was immediately banished and sold away that very night. My mother sat on the bed holding me, silent, listening to Lady Wen's unwilling wails from outside the manor gates. I grasped her ice-cold hand tightly and comforted her. "Mother, I'm not afraid. You shouldn't be afraid either. She harmed us first." My mother's tense body finally relaxed a little. She rested her face against my head and cried silently for a while. From then on, Mother used the excuse of recuperation to move with me to the quiet orchid courtyard. Father sighed deeply when he heard. Why must she torment herself like this? My mother looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, "Mingxing, your affection is like a blade that cuts. Don't let hatred be all that remains between us in the end." Father was taken aback at being called by his given name. His lips moved, but he said nothing in the end, turning and leaving with slumped shoulders. As soon as he left, Mother wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. She patted me gently, still in a daze, then said, "See? A woman needs only a single tear to move a man to heartbreak. Being a wife sometimes requires acting skills. You must learn this well." I clapped my hands in genuine admiration. Looking at my mother's weary eyes, I thought perhaps it wasn't entirely acting after all. Mother clearly suspected there was poison in Lady Wen's gift of food, yet she still consumed it knowingly. The First Lady appears generous and tolerant on the surface, but secretly always sent Lady Wen to oppress us. Even more outrageous, they wanted me to become engaged to a merchant, praising him as handsome as an immortal, but my mother had already investigated thoroughly. That man's previous wife had been beaten to death by him during one of his drunken rages. The First Lady and Lady Wen wanted to push me toward destruction, so naturally, my mother couldn't tolerate it. My mother sacrificed one unborn child to drive Lady Wen from the manor and also made the First Lady wary. She also took this opportunity to withdraw from the inner court battles completely. The night my mother and I moved to Orchid Courtyard, we lay sleeping side by side. I nestled in my mother's sweet, soft embrace and declared spiritedly, "Mother, in the future, I will be your support and protection." Mother replied wearily, "You'd better worry about what to eat tomorrow morning instead." I protested indignantly. "Don't underestimate me. I'm quite capable, you know." Mother laughed even harder and teased me. Fine. Let me see. The capable third Miss Liang Yue, do you plan to open a restaurant to support me, or become a talented lady renowned throughout the land?" As soon as I heard this, I became truly angry. How dare Mother peek at my diary? I threatened to run away from home immediately. My mother hurriedly apologized. "Oh my, these past few days, you've been hiding in your room, secretly writing and scribbling. Jade even suspected you were secretly exchanging love letters with some young man, worried you were being deceived by bad people. That's why I peeked at your diary. Good daughter, it's Mother's fault." I was speechless. "Mother, I'm only 14 years old. You worry too much." Mother yawned. 14 isn't that young anymore. In a few more years, you'll be clamoring to get married anyway." She fell asleep, but I tossed and turned restlessly. I felt sorry for Mother and wanted to become someone with real prospects to be her support. I racked my brains thinking, remembering the stories I'd read about transmigration, wondering what people usually did in such situations. Opening a restaurant wouldn't work. Among scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants were looked down upon the most. If I really opened a restaurant, Father would be the first to beat me senseless, and Mother would be mocked by everyone in society. Becoming a talented lady was even more impossible. After taking the provincial exam in my previous life, I couldn't even remember a complete classical poem anymore. My knowledge of ancient literature was practically non-existent. Thinking it over, there was only one path left: marriage. Marriage was truly a lifelong career in this era. As long as I could marry well, my mother could live peacefully and comfortably in this manner. Ever since my mother suffered the miscarriage, our lives had actually become much more peaceful. For 4 years now, hidden away in Orchid Courtyard, I had devoted myself to studying the art of being a wife, wholeheartedly seeking a suitable husband for my future. In ancient times, being a wife was indeed a profession. Having to serve as human resources manager, financial controller, and general administrator was truly not easy. But my job-seeking direction was crystal clear: find a company with strong financial backing and simple personnel structure, then smoothly join the staff. So when my elder sister told me to seduce the general, I acted shy and angry on the outside, but inside I was as happy as if celebrating a festival. The general was skilled at leading troops in battle, with extremely high individual competence and capability. Currently favored by His Majesty, he had accumulated considerable wealth over the years. The general had no brothers or sisters, avoiding many troublesome conflicts and power struggles. He was an orphan raised by various families in the military, so I wouldn't even need to serve difficult parents-in-law. His suitability for my requirements reached 90%. Truly perfect. Most importantly, my educational level was beyond salvation. People nowadays valued literature over martial arts, especially among the nobility in the capital. Every matchmaking meeting required composing poetry and testing each other's cultural knowledge. Men and women without proper education found marriage arrangements extremely difficult. This was also why my elder sister looked down on the general so much. She found him crude and uneducated. But now it was perfect. The general had no classical education, and I had no classical education either. Two uneducated people together meant neither could criticize the other for being uncultured. So from the moment my elder sister mentioned having me seduce the general, his name had already been circled in red ink and hidden under my pillow long ago. I had secretly studied very thoroughly how to marry the general as his legitimate wife. I had prepared all my strategies and was just waiting for the chance to put them into practice. Early in the morning, my elder sister had someone bring me to her courtyard and personally did my hair and makeup. Her eyes were red and swollen, clearly from crying through the night. Yesterday, Scholar Wei had come to the door to propose marriage to her, but father didn't immediately agree, maintaining an ambiguous attitude that left everyone uncertain. My elder sister said angrily, "Father says His Majesty values that military man highly and cannot afford to offend him. Until his marriage is settled, I still cannot marry Scholar Wei." At this point, she burst into tears again. Am I just meat on his chopping board? If he's satisfied, then everyone else must step aside for his convenience. Honestly, I really couldn't sympathize with my elder sister. I couldn't understand what was so wonderful about that Scholar Wei. He achieved his education and position entirely thanks to his elderly mother and younger sister scraping together every penny to support his studies. Now that he's become an official, he shows remarkably little care for his mother and sister. I once met Miss Wei Lin, his sister. Her clothes were old and unfashionable, worn at the edges. As for his mother, she argued with vegetable vendors in the market over a few copper coins, haggling fiercely. This era was when men trampled over women without consequence. Women were merely stepping stones for men's advancement, not daring to speak up for themselves. Now Scholar Wei had consumed his mother's health and his sister's youth to achieve his position. Yet my elder sister was still eager to offer herself up to him. Though Scholar Wei had entered the prestigious Hanlin Academy with seemingly unlimited prospects, to rise further up, he'd need at least 3 to 5 years of hard work and maneuvering. If my elder sister married him, she'd naturally have to endure those lean, difficult years alongside him. I shared these thoughts with my elder sister carefully. She replied hotly, "What do you know? Only when I suffer through hardships with him will he remember my kindness forever when he achieves success and fame later." I thought to myself, then sister is badly mistaken. Once men have real achievements and successful careers, they immediately forget their humble origins. Now he elevates you to the clouds with sweet words, but later if he becomes a higher official than father, he'll probably be full of resentment toward our family for not being prestigious enough. My elder sister took me to the general's manor to attend a celebration banquet. On the way, she instructed me very carefully and precisely. When we get there, just jump into the lake beside the pavilion. My maid will immediately cry for help. The general will think I've fallen in the water and will definitely jump in to save me. When he pulls you up and discovers it's you instead, the rice will already be cooked. He'll have no choice but to marry you to preserve both your reputations. Watching her confidently plot out this scheme, I felt confused and bewildered. I always thought I was the stupid one in the family. But it seemed my elder sister wasn't much smarter than me in practical matters. I asked several obvious questions. What if someone other than the general jumped in to save me? What if the general can't swim and doesn't jump? What if the general saves me but still refuses to marry me afterward? My elder sister answered arrogantly, "Don't worry at all. I'll have the maid specifically invite him to the lakeside at the exact right moment. If he thinks I've fallen in the water, he'll risk his very life to save me." As for not wanting to marry you, my elder sister became even more smug and confident. "You're my sister. If he ruins your reputation and refuses to marry you, wouldn't that break my heart for no reason? He definitely won't bear to do that to me." I was stunned silent. This man had fought his way through countless battlefields, stepping over life and death repeatedly to rise from a common peasant to a decorated general. What made her think he'd risk his life so readily for her sake? "So what if you're his beloved?" The general wasn't foolish enough to ruin his entire future and life just to avoid breaking her heart, marrying someone he didn't love out of obligation. I secretly decided I must go home later and burn all the romance novels hidden under my elder sister's bed. Reading too much romantic fiction had truly damaged her ability to think clearly. But I never expected that in this ridiculous play, I would be the one playing the fool. The general actually jumped in. In the water, I saw him flailing his arms in an awkward swimming stroke, paddling toward me with determination. I pointed frantically at my face, signaling desperately, "Look clearly. I'm Liang Yue, not your beloved. Don't save me. I don't want to be married off due to a misunderstanding. If he harbors resentment because of this forced marriage, life will be absolutely miserable later." The general clearly saw my face and recognized me, but still swam toward me with all his strength and determination. When we reached the shore, he grabbed a cloak nearby and threw it over me to preserve my modesty. My elder sister wept dramatically, putting on quite a performance. Third sister has been close to me since childhood. Now her virtue has been compromised by this incident. If the general refuses to take responsibility, I will hate you for the rest of my life. I poked my head out from under the cloak, cringing at what I heard. This was so embarrassing. The general glanced at me briefly and said calmly and decisively, "I will immediately go to the Liang Manor to formally request your hand in marriage." I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I was truly too naive about everything. My elder sister's influence and appeal were genuinely terrifying to command such loyalty. After the general spoke, he paused briefly, then turned to look directly at me and asked slowly, with careful precision, "Miss Liang Yue, are you willing to marry me?" His clothes were soaked and clinging to his body. I could clearly see his firm, defined abdominal muscles, his slender waist, and his large hands with prominent knuckles. My nose suddenly felt hot, as if blood was about to gush out uncontrollably. I quickly covered my nose and stammered, "Yes, willing, I suppose so. My elder sister and I married on the same day. She married Scholar Wei. I married the general. Double happiness for one family," they said. The manor was decorated with red lanterns and colorful flowers everywhere. Everyone was bustling about energetically to send my elder sister and me off to our new lives. When I put on the red bridal veil and stepped carefully into the wedding sedan chair, I suddenly heard the matchmaker cry out in panic, "Wrong, wrong. The general says we took the wrong person." Before my eyes could adjust to the brightness, someone lifted my bridal veil abruptly, and the general's cold, intense face appeared before me. He stared at me without saying a word, his dark eyes searching mine, then took my hand firmly and pulled me directly into his embrace. Outside, there was quite a commotion and confusion. I finally understood that my elder sister and I had somehow gotten into the wrong sedan chairs in all the chaos. This time the general didn't return me to the original sedan, but directly lifted me onto his horse with surprising strength. He called out in his rough, commanding voice, "Play the music to escort my lady home." Firecrackers exploded thunderously all around us. Brilliant fireworks shot into the evening sky in celebration. His large, warm hand encircled my waist firmly. Warmth penetrated through the many layers of my wedding dress to reach my skin beneath. In that moment, I truly felt I had become a married woman. The streets were bustling with noise, people crowding around asking for wedding candy and rice cakes. Just like that, the general carried me on his horse all the way back to the general's manor, parading through the capital. But I never expected that right during the wedding ceremony itself, an imperial edict from His Majesty would arrive, throwing the entire manor into absolute chaos. The general still held my hand tightly without letting go, gently instructing me on what to do and how to conduct myself. I was dizzy with shock and disbelief. I never imagined His Majesty would grant me the title of second-rank imperial lady immediately upon my marriage. All the wedding guests were stunned into silence. In the entire dynasty's history, there had never been such a young imperial lady appointed. This showed just how much the general was favored and valued by His Majesty. Receiving this imperial edict was like winning the grandest lottery. It meant that as long as I didn't cause serious trouble or commit murder and treason, I could safely be the general's wife for life without fear. His Majesty also granted me many fertile fields and profitable shops, all registered as my personal dowry property. Not only did I receive a generous monthly salary, but I'd also get substantial rewards during festivals and special occasions. I'd become a permanent, protected employee right from the very start, truly establishing my career from day one of marriage. I was so happy I had to cover my mouth tightly to keep from laughing out loud with joy. I now outranked my own father by 2 full levels in the official hierarchy. Let's see if he dares scold me casually in the future. But this overwhelming joy was dashed with cold water on our wedding night. After drinking the ceremonial wine together, the general simply said, "Sleep well and rest early," and left the bridal chamber. He just left. Really left me sitting there alone. I lay on the elaborately decorated bed, pulled out a pile of roasted sunflower seeds I'd hidden under the covers earlier, and quietly munched on them for a while, thinking deeply. Suddenly, I remembered my mother's earnest instructions from last night. Your husband is 25 and just married for the first time. The wedding night might be a bit rough and overwhelming. Don't be foolish and just endure everything. Push back when you need to push back. I had asked my mother uncertainly, what if he can't perform? My mother was left speechless by the question. She whispered awkwardly, men are very proud about such matters. Even if he truly can't perform well, you must pretend he's very capable and impressive. My mother and I had quite a serious discussion about male pride and ego that night. Mother instructed carefully, while your husband hasn't taken any concubines yet, you should enjoy yourself a little. If you desire him, take the initiative to approach him boldly. Don't waste your youth sulking alone in your chamber over nothing. Frankly speaking, I can maintain my dignity and self-respect, but I refuse to live like I'm already dead inside. His heart may belong to my elder sister still, and I don't particularly mind that reality. But his body should at least belong to me as his wife, shouldn't it? I sent Jade to discreetly find out where the general was spending the night, then secretly snuck out to look for him myself. I didn't expect to find the general practicing swordwork in the moonlit courtyard. He was bare-chested, wearing only thin, light trousers. The night wind blew gently. Moonlight illuminated his powerful figure beautifully. I crouched quietly behind the flowering bushes, watching. Seeing the crisscrossing battle scars on his broad back and his handsome, silent, focused face, I instinctively covered my nose, feeling it growing warm. After finishing his practice routine, the general casually scooped up a ladle of cold water and poured it over himself from head to toe, letting it cascade down his body. The sound of rushing water filled the quiet night. My heart was racing uncontrollably. My nose began bleeding, flowing freely. The commotion caught the general's sharp attention. Seeing my face covered with bright blood, he immediately panicked. "What's wrong with you? Are you injured?" He quickly picked me up in his strong arms and shouted urgently, "Someone come quickly. Call the physician immediately." I hurriedly covered his mouth with my hand and stammered an awkward explanation. "Don't. This is just excess internal heat. I'm young with vigorous blood circulation." This minor ailment is easy to treat. I just need you to. He immediately slowed down his movements. He looked down at me intently, waiting. I might as well close my eyes and take the plunge boldly. Just kiss me a few times and I'll be perfectly fine. Afraid he'd refuse outright, I took the initiative first. I wrapped my arms around his neck and actively pressed my lips to his. The general's entire body stiffened in surprise. His strong hands suddenly tightened their grip, pressing deep into the soft flesh of my back. He easily pinned me against the nearby wall, biting my lips with surprising intensity. I felt caught in a violent storm, all reason torn to shreds, air stolen away completely, consciousness hazily dissolving into nothing. When I finally regained some awareness, I was already inside the bedroom. The general used his knees to pin my legs apart, slowly advancing with clear purpose. His eyes looking at me burned intensely hot as he persistently asked, "Miss Liang Yue, are you truly willing?" Those eyes were like a raging firestorm burning through my heart. I covered my flushed face and mumbled quietly, "Yes." He still wouldn't let me off so easily, pulling my hands above my head and forcing me to look directly at him. I forced myself to endure the overwhelming shame and bit my lip while maintaining eye contact. Candlelight flickered through the silk bed curtains, and I could clearly see in his intense eyes what looked like a wild beast stalking its prey. He stared at me as if he wanted to devour me completely. He asked again, more insistently, "Miss Liang Yue, are you willing or not?" I whimpered like a small kitten, "Willing." His mouth asked this way, but his other hand was already making me tremble uncontrollably. How could I possibly escape now? The general pressed my waist down firmly, bit my ear, and demanded in a rough whisper, "Willing to what exactly?" Later, I couldn't remember clearly what I had said in response, only knowing that to make him spare me some mercy, I cried and begged incoherently, speaking without any sense. I was pressed down until my head hung over the edge of the bed. Glancing to the side, I saw the candles had burned out completely. Dim early morning light from the window faintly illuminated our tangled forms. My legs were still draped over his broad shoulders, aching and completely numb. Finally, unable to endure any more, I cried genuine tears and fell into exhausted sleep. I only vaguely felt him carrying me gently to bathe, carefully changing the sheets and bedding afterward. Lying in that fragrant, clean bedding, I completely lost consciousness. After several days of this sweet yet utterly shameless newlywed life with the general, now whenever I see him approaching, my legs go weak automatically. These days he's on official leave, staying home all day long, not going out the front or back doors, clinging to me like glue constantly. I looked at him with mild exasperation and said, "General, you don't do anything productive all day. Isn't that a bit improper? Please go out drinking with colleagues, riding horses in the countryside, visiting scenic lakes, and listening to opera performances. You can do anything you want. Just don't keep hanging around the manor constantly." The general leaned back lazily in his soft chair, glanced at me with amusement, and smiled with clear meaning. "I do plenty of things at home, too." "Is that so? Is Miss Liang Yue not satisfied with my performance?" This man, really. In front of others, he solemnly calls me my lady with great respect, but when it's just the two of us behind closed doors, he deliberately calls me Miss Liang Yue, clearly teasing me about our first night. I rubbed my already flushed ears, looking desperately for an excuse to get him to go outside for a while. Actually, the manor steward had already carefully prepared all the gifts for visiting my natal family. But I claimed I wanted to personally add a few more special items. Now when I look at the heavy desk, the soft chairs, and even the doors in our room, I feel dizzy with embarrassing memories. Truly, a man's heart and body can operate on completely different wavelengths. If I hadn't accidentally seen the portrait of my elder sister still carefully kept in his study's bookcase, I would have really thought that his daily intimate attention meant he had fallen in love with me. When I panicked and tried to put the painting back quickly, he was standing right at the study door watching me with an unreadable expression. I jumped in shock. Discovering my husband's secret was truly mortifying. The general deliberately wouldn't let me off easily, raising an eyebrow and asking, "What is my lady looking at so intently?" I looked around evasively, avoiding his eyes. "Nothing at all. I just saw dust accumulating on the bookcase and wiped it down casually." He stepped closer, trapping me against the chair, leaning close to whisper directly in my ear. "Why don't you open it completely and take a proper look?" I became even more flustered and quickly replied, "I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare at all. These are the General's private belongings. I absolutely cannot look at them without permission." He suddenly gave a cold, low laugh. What happened after that? I hurriedly patted my burning face, not wanting to remember anymore, only eager to get him to go outside the manor. But speaking truthfully, the connection between my elder sister and the General was indeed too deep and complicated. It was rare for us to go out together shopping. Yet we still ran into my elder sister by pure coincidence. The General and I were sitting comfortably in a small, elegant jewelry shop, carefully selecting pieces to gift my mother, when suddenly there was a loud commotion outside. "You're really going to break things in this expensive shop? Any single item here costs dozens of taels of fine silver. A married daughter is like spilled water, completely belonging to her husband's family. Both your dowry and monthly allowance now belong to the Wei family. But little Wei Lin and I still need some decent jewelry, so picking a bit more is perfectly fine." I heard that disgusting, grating tone of voice and secretly peeked outside through the screen. It turned out to be my elder sister's new mother-in-law, Madame Wei. Even thick powder and heavy rouge couldn't hide the mean, calculating look permanently etched on her aged face. That mother-in-law and young sister-in-law were freely choosing expensive jewelry pieces, casually spending hundreds of taels without any hesitation. My elder sister tried desperately to hold back tears and said gently, "Mother-in-law, today I specifically wanted to choose appropriate gifts for my own birth mother." The mother-in-law immediately took off the plain silver bracelet from her own wrist, threw it carelessly on the polished table, and glared as she said sharply, "I've worn this particular piece for many years, and even had a famous high monk bless it properly. Giving it to your mother is already quite precious and generous." The young sister-in-law, Wei Lin, was caressing the expensive gold bracelet on her hand lovingly, completely unwilling to take her eyes off it for even a moment. "Hurry up and pay for everything, you useless girl. The shop owner says this particular design is unique in the entire capital. If we don't order it immediately now, someone else will certainly take it." The behavior of those two women was even more detestable than corrupt officials stealing from the people. Though I didn't particularly like my elder sister's personality, seeing her oppressed and humiliated like this still made me genuinely angry. My elder sister was so wronged and hurt she wanted to cry but didn't know how to argue back effectively. Watching this painful scene made my heart burn with outrage. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law exchanged knowing glances, their eyes full of smug satisfaction. Clearly, they had long ago figured out my elder sister's gentle temperament completely and knew with certainty she wouldn't dare to resist them. My elder sister had been pampered and protected like precious jade by the First Lady since childhood, raised with extremely high self-respect and pride, never having encountered such vulgar, direct humiliation before. Just then, Scholar Wei himself arrived at the shop. As soon as my elder sister saw him, she burst into genuine tears of relief. Scholar Wei still had some basic humanity remaining. After learning what had happened, he said gently but firmly, "Mother, little sister, Charlotte has already given you both plenty of fine jewelry before the wedding, all from her generous dowry, and far more valuable than these current items. Since today is specifically for choosing gifts for her birth mother, shall we go to another shop instead?" I thought these words showed at least some conscience and consideration. But thinking deeper about the situation, my elder sister had only married a few short days ago. Yet her in-laws already dared to freely touch and spend her personal dowry funds. What would happen in the future years? Unexpectedly, the mother-in-law rolled her eyes dramatically and began loudly lamenting her supposed terrible fate. "Oh my, truly the old saying is absolutely right. Take a wife and forget your birth mother. 7 years ago, to support your expensive education, I had to humble myself working as a lowly servant in wealthy households. Struggling desperately to earn every single penny to buy paper and ink for your studies. Little sister couldn't afford to buy even one decent outfit in an entire year. Her hands ached constantly from doing embroidery work whenever it rained." She began dramatically recounting old debts and past sacrifices in excruciating detail. The young sister-in-law also pretended to sob along pathetically. Scholar Wei immediately fell into uncomfortable silence, his refined face full of obvious difficulty and conflict. My elder sister hurriedly said, trying to smooth things over, "Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, if you truly like these pieces, just buy them all. Please don't say such hurtful things. It will sadden my husband terribly to hear such accusations." After she said this desperately, Scholar Wei merely sighed deeply. "I've troubled my wife with unnecessary expenses again." The mother-in-law and sister-in-law pursed their thin lips with displeasure. Not even a single word of genuine thanks or gratitude. A young lady from a respectable official family, yet so stingy and reluctant with spending money. Truly looking down on humble, poor families like ours. My son marrying you was truly his great misfortune. Hearing this outrageous statement, I wanted to rush out immediately and give her 2 blazing slaps across her ungrateful face. My father was indeed a government official, but the silver in our household wasn't magically picked up from the sky. My elder sister's extremely generous dowry was only possible because the First Lady had practically emptied the family treasury to provide for her beloved daughter. I turned to signal the general urgently. "Let's think of some way to help elder sister. Didn't you once have deep feelings for her? Now's the perfect time to show it." I even deliberately spoke up to give him a graceful way out of the situation. "Go help her quickly." The general gently pressed me back into my seat, smiled faintly, and said calmly, "Drink some tea to cool your anger first. Look at yourself. You're about to burst into flames with righteous fury. If your elder sister cannot stand up for herself firmly, then even if you rush out to help right now, it would ultimately be useless. Some people must suffer genuine hardship before they finally learn to think for themselves." I blurted out without thinking, "You're truly cold-hearted. You secretly admire my elder sister in your heart, yet you still say such callous things." As soon as I finished speaking, I immediately regretted it and bit my tongue hard in punishment. Some things are one matter to know silently in your heart, but saying them out loud is entirely another. It's like deliberately piercing through that thin, fragile layer of paper protecting everyone. After hearing this accusation, the general didn't respond for a long, uncomfortable time. His expression was dark and completely unreadable. His black eyes stared at me intently, like dark storm clouds covering everything, making me feel breathless. I thought to myself with growing worry, I'm afraid I've genuinely hurt him deeply. After all, he couldn't marry the woman he truly loved, and I had to thoughtlessly poke right at his most painful wound. I wondered nervously if he'd still let me sleep peacefully tonight, or if there would be consequences. His technique in bed was quite thorough and skillful, though. The next day, the general took me home to visit my natal family as custom required. I sat uncomfortably on the soft cushion in the carriage, my bottom still sore and painful from the previous night. Last night, I had been sleeping peacefully in a daze when the general suddenly returned from his study, picked me up without warning, and gave me 3 hard, stinging slaps right on my bottom. I looked at him in pain and complete bewilderment, utterly unable to understand what had happened or what I'd done wrong. Yet he acted as if absolutely nothing had occurred, put me down without any explanation whatsoever, and simply held me close to sleep. Crazy. Truly crazy behavior. I was angry, but didn't dare speak up to question him. Yet I secretly got my revenge in the morning. When I stepped over him to get out of bed, I pretended to stumble clumsily and stepped firmly right on his most vital spot. He immediately grimaced in obvious pain, his face contorting. "You spanked my bottom hard, so I'll threaten your ability to have descendants." We were even now. I giggled twice mischievously and ran away quickly. Since I was visiting home today anyway, I'd stay at my natal manor for a few comfortable days before returning. By then, no matter how angry he was, he'd have cooled down considerably. I didn't expect to encounter yet another troublesome incident during the carriage ride today. The general kept frowning and sighing deeply, which was very unlike him. I listened anxiously and pretended to ask with wifely concern, "What's wrong? What happened to you?" He glanced at me and replied seriously, "It hurts. Come here and massage it for me." This statement made me instantly rebellious. I glared at him defiantly. "My bottom is still hurting from your punishment. Why don't I see you offering to massage it for me?" The general immediately said, "That works perfectly, too." He stretched out his long, strong arms to pull me over, placing me face down across his lap in an undignified position. I silently slapped myself mentally. My big mouth causes trouble again and again. When we finally reached the manor gates, my face was already flushed deep red with embarrassment as I hurriedly pushed him away. When we got out of the carriage, we coincidentally encountered my elder sister and Scholar Wei also returning from some errand. Afraid the general would follow me inside and continue his teasing, I quickly smiled and greeted them politely before rushing into the manor ahead. As a result, in my flustered, dazed state, I tripped spectacularly over the threshold and fell flat on the ground in front of everyone. I wanted to die of embarrassment. Just let me die right here and now. Behind me came the barely suppressed laughter of my elder sister and Scholar Wei, clearly enjoying my humiliation. I wished desperately I could burrow into the ground and hide forever. The general immediately strode over quickly and pulled me up with gentle strength. He frowned with concern, carefully brushed the dust off my clothes, then systematically checked my wrists and ankles to confirm I wasn't injured or had dislocated anything. Only then did he breathe a visible sigh of relief. My elder sister spoke with thinly veiled mockery. Third sister has been clumsy and awkward since childhood. That's unfortunate but acceptable, but now that she's married into another distinguished family, she still doesn't know proper etiquette and grace. I think mother should teach her manners again thoroughly, lest the general's manner mock the Liang family for not raising their daughter properly. From childhood to adulthood, my elder sister always enjoyed making these snide, cutting remarks at me, neither truly painful nor particularly itchy, and I never bothered to care much. But the general's face turned cold as winter ice as he replied sharply, a petty wife of some minor frontier official who doesn't even worry about whether her husband has sufficient salary to live comfortably on, yet dares to lecture a second-rank imperial lady about propriety. Truly like a dog criticizing a cat for having too much fine fur, meddling in others' business where it doesn't belong. I saw my elder sister's face immediately turn pale as fresh snow, so indignant and shocked she nearly fainted on the spot. She had never been so rudely and directly scolded to her face by anyone in her entire sheltered life. The general took my hand firmly and led me into the house with confident strides. On the way, he suddenly said quietly, "I was just speaking carelessly in anger. I wasn't calling you a mouse in that comparison. Don't take it to heart." I replied casually, "It's perfectly fine. Since childhood, I've been scolded by the First Lady and various concubines constantly. My face has been trained to diamond-level invincibility. Every time the First Lady got angry, she'd curse everything imaginable, calling me a lowly person born of a lowly woman, naturally base and ill-mannered, greedy and lazy, a debt collector reincarnated, livestock that couldn't be trained into anything useful." I continued matter-of-factly, "But whatever she cursed at me, I let it go in one ear and out the other without feeling genuinely hurt at all." The general gently squeezed my hand and asked softly with real concern, "Why does she scold you so harshly like that?" I didn't know how to answer truthfully. Who really knows? Sometimes hating someone doesn't require a logical reason. My father held an elaborate banquet to entertain his 2 new sons-in-law properly. Even my mother was specially invited to sit at the main table for the formal meal, which was unusual. After dinner, according to established custom, came the gift-giving segment from the 2 sons-in-law. The general was fairly equal and practical in his approach, giving each lady in the household a heavy gold bracelet. They were all identical in design, like wholesale goods purchased in bulk, which saved people from secretly comparing and feeling jealous behind backs. Though somewhat mundane and unimaginative, it was very practical and sensible. Lady Chen, that money-loving woman, smiled so widely her mouth wouldn't close properly. She even secretly reached for second sister's bracelet and tried to stuff it into her own sleeve. Second sister stamped her feet in frustrated anger, but couldn't do anything effective about it. Then came Scholar Wei's gift-giving presentation. My elder sister said, as if casually but very deliberately, "The gifts Sebastian has prepared for everyone are all extremely thoughtful and meaningful." This statement was tantamount to openly mocking the general's gifts as thoughtless and crude. Even at this moment, she still has time and energy to make snide remarks at me. Doesn't elder sister ever get tired of this constant competition? When the gifts were finally opened and revealed, everyone in the room fell into awkward silence. The gift was actually just a collection of Scholar Wei's own poetry compositions, bound simply. Lady Chen, who had come with a clear mission today to suppress me and elevate my elder sister in status, forced herself to hold back her disappointment and could only squeeze out one painfully awkward sentence: literature is priceless. The young master's gift is truly precious. Everyone had already lowered their heads uncomfortably, not knowing how to react appropriately. Hearing that forced comment made the situation even more ridiculously awkward and tense. In the end, it was still my father who broke the strained atmosphere, laughing heartily and telling everyone to disperse and return to their respective courtyards to rest. I was assigned the task of giving the general a proper tour around the manor grounds. Along the way, he pointed to the decorative koi pond in the manor and said with an amused smile, "I heard that father-in-law used to love raising expensive fish, but the more he raised them carefully, the fewer there were mysteriously." He continued, "One day, while watching vigilantly for thieves, he unexpectedly caught the real little culprit. It was you, sneaking over every few days to catch fish and roast them over a fire for snacks." I awkwardly defended myself. It really wasn't because I was greedily hungry. It's just that the fish father raised were so extraordinarily delicious. Once you tasted them, you'd remember the flavor forever. The general said nothing in response, just smiled knowingly. When we passed the extensive flower garden, he looked at the archery target set up against the far wall and said thoughtfully, "Mother told me that at age 8, you suddenly developed a strong interest in becoming a female warrior." He continued, "The family immediately hired an expensive female martial arts master to teach you properly. But after only a few months of difficult training, you couldn't stand the harsh discipline anymore and switched to learning archery instead, which you actually mastered quite well. This archery skill is my genuine specialty and pride." I immediately had a servant bring my personal bow, told the general to stand exactly 100 paces away, and balance a fresh apple on his head. I drew the bow smoothly, knocked a small stone instead of an arrow, and with a sharp pop, the apple exploded into pieces. The general looked at the bow in my hands and frowned with sudden realization. I remember a few years ago the young master of Marquis Yongning's household had his expensive jade crown shattered by someone using stones while walking casually on the road. Judging by the precise technique, it must have been your handiwork. I widened my eyes and quickly protested my complete innocence. I didn't cause trouble for absolutely no reason. That scoundrel from Marquis Yongning's house bullied me first. He threw sharp stones at me and gave me a painful bump on my head as big as a steamed bun. I really had to retaliate in self-defense. I realized with growing alarm that my parents had only chatted with him briefly a few times. Yet even these tiny, embarrassing secrets were revealed completely to him. Whether it was me stealing fish or being skilled with a bow, absolutely nothing could be hidden anymore. I definitely need to bring him home less often in the future to prevent more embarrassing revelations. I pouted and muttered, "It seems you're extremely curious about me and my past." Unexpectedly, he said quite seriously, "But my lady shows absolutely no curiosity about me whatsoever." A phrase suddenly popped into my head from some book I'd read: "Curiosity is the beginning of love." Could it be that the general actually likes me? I looked at him suspiciously, and he suddenly pulled me quickly behind a nearby artificial mountain. The light suddenly dimmed dramatically, and we were pressed close together, our breaths mingling intimately. I leaned against his broad chest and stammered nervously, "It's not proper here in public." The general looked at me and chuckled low in his throat. "My lady, you truly are a lustful beauty constantly craving passion." A moment later, I understood exactly why he said that teasing statement. It was because my elder sister and the First Lady were walking this way, and he didn't want to encounter them, so he pulled me here to hide temporarily. I was embarrassed and angry, punching his solid chest in frustration. He caught my hand easily, bent his head to kiss it lightly, and gently coaxed me. "My lady, don't be hasty. When we return to the manor, however you want to play, your husband will indulge you completely." I stamped my feet in pure frustration. Truly impossible to argue when you have such a clever mouth. Outside our hiding place, the First Lady said through gritted teeth with barely controlled fury, "From the very beginning, I disapproved of the Wei family match. Yet you insisted stubbornly on marrying into it. Now look at the result. Bullied constantly by an old woman, still haven't even properly consummated the marriage, and today came home carrying tattered books as gifts, making our entire family lose face publicly. My elder sister cried as she spoke defensively. I clearly prepared generous, expensive gifts, but just before leaving they were secretly switched by my mother-in-law. The First Lady said irritably, crying all day long accomplishes nothing. Look at that girl Liang Yue. Sweet as honey with the general constantly, and she's so young yet already granted the prestigious title of second-rank imperial lady. Certainly thanks to the general petitioning His Majesty directly on her behalf. She continued with real regret, I shouldn't have been so soft-hearted before, letting you marry into that declining Wei family. My elder sister insisted stubbornly, with strange intensity, Mother, in my dream, Liang Yue married General Shen and lived warm, happy days together. Later, General Shen was promoted to Grand Chancellor, and she became the most noble and envied lady in the entire capital. She continued emotionally, but if I had listened to you and married the general instead, on our wedding night he would have immediately left for the dangerous northwest frontier, leaving me to live as a lonely widow waiting endlessly for my husband. Then he died in battle, and His Majesty granted poisoned wine, forcing me to be buried alive with him. Speaking of this traumatic dream, she cried even more pitifully. Mother, do you really want me to repeat my tragic past life? Hearing this shocking revelation, I was completely stunned into silence. No wonder my elder sister had been lukewarm toward Scholar Wei before, then fell seriously ill and suddenly, desperately insisted on marrying him at all costs. So she had dreamed of her previous life and was trying to change her fate. The general frowned silently beside me, not knowing what he was thinking about this strange situation. The First Lady painfully embraced her daughter and sighed deeply. Child, dreams are just dreams, not reality. But Liang Yue marrying the general received real, tangible benefits. Mother knows that old woman wronged you terribly, and I hate that I can't tear her ungrateful face apart myself, but this is your life now. Mother cannot live it for you. My elder sister said angrily, with clear resentment. In that dream, Liang Yue was surprisingly close with that old woman and even had tea and watched operas together with Wei Lin regularly before she married. When she missed her own birth mother, General Shen would especially ask father's permission to frequently bring mother home to stay for extended visits. She continued bitterly, General Shen was so serious and stern with others, yet always indulged Liang Yue completely. She'd pull his face playfully in front of crowds and he'd still smile at her. But why, after I married, is everything completely different from my dream? I thought of Scholar Wei's handsome, refined face. Every word from his educated mouth was about propriety and rules, always talking about this regulation and that tradition. I really couldn't imagine how I could ever pull his face playfully like in sister's dream. It seemed completely impossible. His mother and sister were clearly money-grubbing people, eyes narrow with greed and calculation. Telling me to live harmoniously with them would be harder than ascending directly to heaven. After a long, uncomfortable while, the First Lady sighed softly and said with a complex, weary voice, Charlotte, have you ever seriously considered that perhaps it's not about who you marry at all? My elder sister looked at the First Lady in complete confusion, not understanding. She closed her eyes and sighed heavily, painfully. But rather that Liang Yue, no matter who she marries, knows how to live well and make the best of any situation. My elder sister clutched her head and screamed in genuine anguish, Mother, you know I've been competitive since childhood, always desperately wanting to surpass others in everything. I hate that lazy girl bitterly with all my heart. Yet you say such words that stab straight into my heart like sharp knives. I couldn't help but mutter quietly, Elder sister, I've been competitive since childhood too, always wanting to do better than others. But just trying hard myself is enough. Why must you constantly drag me into it? Always blaming me for not being diligent enough in areas I don't even care about. The general gently scratched my chin as if comforting a pet cat, showing his support. Having an other people's child type of sister is truly a personal tragedy. Music, chess, poetry, painting, she wants to achieve absolute perfection in everything she attempts. But there's no such thing as true perfection in this world. Mountains are high, but there are always higher mountains beyond. When others are better than her at something, she tries twice as hard, pushing herself relentlessly. Sometimes I really think she's too obsessed with competition. My elder sister said, as if in a trance, what does she rely on to live so carefree? When mother scolds her terribly, she just silently munches on an apple like a fool, completely unbothered. When father punishes her to kneel in the ancestral hall, she calmly falls asleep right there on the floor. She never cares what others think of her at all. She continued with growing emotion, "That day at the banquet at Prime Minister's Golden Manor, I won first place in the poetry composition competition." She couldn't write even half a line of decent poetry, yet still had the audacity to link arms with the young miss, saying something like, "The world needs sister as a genius, but also needs me as waste to make you stand out. Please spare me from this competition." One casual sentence made that young lady laugh hysterically and call her dear sister affectionately. The more she spoke, the paler my elder sister's face became with suppressed emotion. "Mother, I'm jealous of her. I hate her deeply. She clearly puts in no effort at all, yet everyone naturally loves her and cares about her. I don't believe it. Wait until the general dies in battle in the northwest. Then we'll see if she can still live as carefree as now." After saying this venomous statement, she fainted from extreme indignation and was caught by the First Lady. The First Lady frantically called for servants and hurriedly took her away to rest. I was dumbfounded, saying in complete confusion, "Elder sister is actually jealous of me. She has talent and works hard. Even if I worked myself to death, I couldn't match even a corner of her abilities. I can only resign myself to fate." I continued explaining, "She and the Prime Minister's daughter have been close friends since childhood. In the Prime Minister's manor, she's like a fish in water, completely comfortable. While I'm just a concubine's daughter attending their banquet. I can only desperately play the fool to get even a bit of attention. Such things, if I were to explain them all, it would take forever." The general was silent for a long time, then said coldly, "It's all self-inflicted suffering. Don't take those spiteful words to heart. As for that dream she mentioned, I think it's just nonsense." He paused, then added with clear disdain, "This General Shen sounds like the type of weak, spineless person with no real spirit. How could anyone even look at him?" I patted his chest lightly and teased, "My dear General, you're grinding your teeth saying this General Shen's name. Are you jealous?" Unexpectedly, the general answered decisively and honestly, "Yes, I am jealous." I doubted my own ears and stared at him in complete bewilderment. He looked at me directly, his eyes deep and earnest, speaking each word clearly and deliberately. "My lady, I have feelings for you." Flashback, General's perspective. "Everyone in the manor knows I'm supposed to love Miss Charlotte. Only she is like a block of wood, completely oblivious. That year when I returned to the capital, His Majesty saw me staying home every day, gloomy and dark in mood. So he assigned me a secret mission, to investigate the third prince to see who he associated with and whether he had any treasonous intentions. When I arrived at the residence of the Minister of Revenue, the Liang family, I unexpectedly found a strange notebook hidden under Miss Liang Yue's pillow. Inside were listed many young men of marriageable age in the capital, sons of noble families, declining aristocrats, talented Hanlin scholars. And my name was right there among them. Miss Liang Yue's handwriting was so terrible it made you suspect she dipped a chicken's foot in ink to write. The two characters of my name were written so messily they were painful to look at. I forced myself to read the annotations written behind it. Shen Yan, second-rank general. Salary currently stable. A reliable long-term prospect. Advantages, simple family structure, no worries about jealous competition from family members. Broad shoulders and narrow waist, martial bearing. Marital relations would be excellent. Disadvantages, too serious, doesn't know how to joke. Summary, model of an economical man, marriageable. Gradually approach. So I became genuinely curious about this person who planned to gradually approach me. The first time I saw her was on a spring day when the Princess Royal sent invitations for noble families to come admire flowers. Basically a disguised matchmaking party. The Princess Royal whispered in my ear, "His Majesty is anxious about your marriage. All the young ladies are here today. Whomever you fancy, just speak up." All the young ladies that day dressed simply and plainly. Whenever I glanced over, they would lower their heads and avoid my gaze, as if I were some evil demon. I found it secretly amusing. I came from common origins, and in their eyes, I was no different from some nouveau riche upstart with no family background, no powerful support, no classical education. How could I possibly catch their refined eye? Then I remembered Miss Liang Yue. In her eyes, I was someone worth marrying. How interesting. I heard someone call out, "Elder sister, you finally arrived." That was Miss Charlotte, her half-sister. I looked up and was somewhat dazed. The spy had reported that Miss Liang Yue's formal name was Liang Yue Lin, but she never let anyone call her that, blushing with embarrassment whenever she heard it, for unknown reasons. Who would have thought that while I was still staring in the eldest Miss's direction, the Princess Royal had silently noted it down, thinking I fancied Charlotte. Another layer of misunderstanding. Actually, I first truly saw Miss Liang Yue in the back flower garden of the royal manor. Peonies were in full bloom, brilliantly surrounding a young lady. She wore pale green robes, a purple-gold phoenix-inlaid cap on her head, holding a golden staff. She smiled radiantly, her eyes sparkling bright. Just one look and you felt she was bursting with vitality, as if gathering all the spiritual energy of spring itself. Beside her was a group of children chattering excitedly. "Sister, continue the story." Miss Liang Yue held the staff and spun it around dramatically, mimicking a strange, theatrical voice. Yes. Continuing yesterday's story. Tang Monk and his 3 disciples arrived at the Flaming Mountain, blocked by raging fire, unable to continue their journey. She enthusiastically told tales of the Bull Demon King, Iron Fan Princess, and other mythical characters one after another, captivating her young audience completely. Finally, the maid Jade whispered softly, "Miss, the party is almost over. We should leave now." The children immediately protested loudly, unwilling to go. The young master of Pinyang Manor shouted enthusiastically, "Tomorrow, I'll beg grandmother to host a party and invite sister to come." The young lady of Duke Jing's family also chatted excitedly, "The day after tomorrow, it's our family's turn. I'll invite sister, too." One by one, they raised their hands, competing eagerly to invite her to their future parties. Watching Miss Liang Yue's radiant smile, I thought to myself, no wonder this spring there were so many banquets in the capital, sprouting like mushrooms after rain. No wonder a mere concubine's daughter like her had such a good reputation among the royal nobles. The spy had once said she was currently well loved in the manor and had quite a strong standing. So this was her clever strategy. Just by winning over these young descendants, she had built herself a solid protective shield. "Third sister, can we touch this phoenix purple gold cap and golden staff for a bit?" The children blinked expectantly. Miss Liang Yue laughed generously. "When I get home, I'll make a set for each of you." The children cheered with pure joy. Then Jade immediately opened her money pouch, and the children consciously took out silver to pay. Gleaming silver coins flowed into Miss Liang Yue's pouch. She smiled so widely her eyes curved like crescent moons, no different from a little money-loving businesswoman. Later, I continued attending several banquets, occasionally deliberately walking past her. Didn't she say she would gradually approach me? Why did I never see any action? Each time, Miss Liang Yue would only blush deeply, glance at me once, then quickly scurry away like a frightened rabbit. Sometimes I even felt she was secretly observing me from a distance. But whenever my gaze swept over, she would immediately look away. Finally, I couldn't help but order someone to secretly steal her notebook again to see what else she had written. The page about me had been embellished with many more enthusiastic details. Shen Yan, second-rank general. Salary currently stable, crossed out currently, actually not temporary at all, very reliable. Advantages: simple family, no inner court conflicts, broad shoulders and narrow waist, strong physique, marital relations would be excellent. He can even play the flute beautifully. Knows how to teach children shuttlecock. Very friendly and approachable. Even his way of eating is focused and handsome. She continued, "Today I saw him drinking wine. Oh heavens, so charming it could kill. I want to kiss him." He stopped others from telling vulgar stories. Bonus points. One slap sent that troublemaker from the Yongan family flying when he caused trouble while drunk. So cool. He looks so handsome on horseback, too. Just remembered, when will he let me try riding him? Secretly asked about his life in the Northwest. Felt so sorry for him today. Discovered he likes sweets. Haha. Men who are cold on the outside but warm inside are truly adorable. Reading this, I suddenly felt confused. Why in Miss Liang Yue's eyes did I seem like a peacock showing off its tail feathers, exactly like some narcissist who knows how to flatter? Playing flute, martial arts, being cool, all while carrying these complicated emotions. I continued turning pages. Disadvantages: too serious, boring, doesn't know how to joke, crossed out, still hasn't been kissed yet. Summary: ideal specimen. Absolutely must marry. Must close this deal immediately. I read it over and over countless times. My mind filled with Miss Liang Yue's bright, sparkling eyes. I don't understand why. Clearly, I had just met her at the party the day before. Yet now I was already starting to miss her. Late at night in the quiet darkness, with light rain falling outside, I wondered if she was sleeping well. I got up and rode through the rain to the Liang Manor. She lived in the secluded back courtyard. I climbed up the wall to look down. Unexpectedly, she was still awake. Her hair was loose, leaning against the railing, her face pale and serene in the moonlight. Miss Liang Yue held out her hand to catch the falling rain, as if giving herself courage, whispering softly, "Tomorrow I absolutely must go seduce Shen Yan. Absolutely must do it." She clenched her fist, gritting her teeth as if about to do something earth-shaking. My name spoken from her lips was soft as silk, gentle as thread wrapping around my heart. I returned to the manor, my whole being floating, drinking several cups of tea to cool the heat in my heart. Then somehow the thought occurred to me, tomorrow was the big event between Miss Liang Yue and me. I had to dress really well to make a good impression. I realized that whenever she saw anyone well-dressed and handsome, her eyes would light up like stars. But when I opened my wardrobe and looked left and right, nothing seemed suitable. I had never paid attention to clothing. It was all black and dark blue robes. No wonder Miss Liang Yue had once evaluated me as too serious. A guard beside me whispered softly, "Previously His Majesty granted many fine garments, but you found them too flashy, so they're all stored in the warehouse. Shall I retrieve them?" My gloomy heart suddenly brightened. Bring them all out. The next day, I bathed thoroughly, dressed properly in my finest robes, and looked in the mirror over and over before going out. Unexpectedly, as soon as I arrived at the royal manor gates, I encountered Miss Liang Yue. At first, she looked at me normally, but after blinking a few times, she looked at me again with widening eyes. I glanced over and saw her face gradually turning red. Based on my understanding of her, she was definitely imagining something inappropriate. When entering the gate, she stumbled and nearly fell. I quickly reached out to steady her, only hearing her mumble softly, "Thank you, General." Before I could respond, she had already lifted her skirts and run away. During the banquet, from ring toss to archery, I participated in everything half-heartedly. My mind was only on one thing: when would Miss Liang Yue finally make her move to seduce me? After waiting endlessly without seeing any action, I finally couldn't stand it and called the spy planted in the Liang Manor to inquire. That person was the maid beside her, Jade. In the capital, which official's manor didn't have the court's informants? Nothing unusual about it. As soon as Jade saw me, she immediately knelt down, her face pale as snow. "General, please be understanding. What my young miss writes in her diary is just playful nonsense. Absolutely no intention of offending you." I told her to stand up, cleared my throat several times, trying to hide the awkwardness in my heart, and asked, "Miss Liang Yue said she would come seduce me today. Why is there still no action?" Jade was startled for a moment, then hurriedly said, "Miss said today is too hot. She plans to choose a cooler day." A few days later at another party, the day had just rained and was pleasantly cool, yet she still made no moves. Jade said again, "Miss said today her mood is good. If rejected by the general, it would affect her appetite. So she's waiting for a day when her mood is bad before taking the risk." I was silent, truly wanting to tell her, "I won't reject you." After waiting endlessly without seeing her act, Jade said again, "Today the master scolded the young miss, so her mood is unhappy. If rejected by the general, it would truly be misfortune upon misfortune, so she's decided to postpone again." Later, I heard all sorts of ridiculous excuses. Today Miss ate too much and feels sluggish, afraid of not speaking smoothly. Today Miss is hungry and has no energy, afraid it would affect her image. Today the imperial calendar says it's inauspicious for discussing marriage. My eyes saw countless more diary comments added to her notebook. Good heavens, dressed so handsomely, I really want to strip his clothes off. Damn it. What kind of person is cold on the outside but passionate inside? One smile makes me want to kiss him immediately. It's over. It's over. Last night I dreamed of Shen Yan again. All because of that hand that caught me. No good. I must confess. Even if I die, I must confess. If I can't kiss Shen Yan's lips, can't touch his abs, can't climb on top of him, my beauty will wither, my spirit will decline, the world will be destroyed. In her notebook, she had imagined vivid scenes of tearing off my clothes, sitting on my waist, forcing me to call her beautiful sister. Yet from the time we met until now, she and I had exchanged exactly one sentence. She said thank you, General, and I hadn't even had time to reply, no need for courtesy. In my mind, there was only one thought: I must propose marriage. Absolutely must propose. I understood clearly now, Miss Liang Yue was truly a cowardly rabbit. If I didn't take the initiative, I feared I'd have to live as a bachelor my whole life. Who would have thought His Majesty would play tricks? He summoned me to the palace with an earnest tone. I hear lately you've been lovesick over the eldest miss of the Liang family, moping around like a flower-struck fool every day, yet she pays you no mind. I'm quite worried about you. Hearing this, my heart went cold by half. As expected, His Majesty was pulling another foolish move. He hinted to Minister Liang not to arrange marriage for the eldest miss, and even borrowed my name to send countless precious treasures to the Liang manor. So the entire capital thought I fancied Charlotte. Later, Jade reported back that Charlotte, wanting to reject me, forced Liang Yue to seduce me instead. Initially, I planned to step forward and explain clearly. But thinking it over, I let it be. As for Miss Liang Yue, if I didn't give her a push, she'd spend her whole life hiding in her turtle shell. Besides, though she seemed confused on the surface, she was quite clear-minded inside. If she truly didn't want to, even if Charlotte used hundreds of schemes, she couldn't force her. This was also a convenient way to test her true feelings. Therefore, when I heard Liang Yue had actually jumped into the lake that day, I felt both terrified and secretly delighted. Bringing her back to the manor, I was somewhat nervous on our wedding night, too. I knew she liked men who dressed elegantly with handsome appearances, while I was covered in scars all over my body, afraid of frightening her. Who knew beauty makes one bold? After Liang Yue married me, she grew sky-high courage, sneaking out at midnight to find me, watching me practice swordwork until she got a nosebleed. But she thought my heart still lingered on her elder sister. So though intimate with me physically, she gradually distanced herself emotionally. When she saw Charlotte's portrait in my study bookcase, she also pretended not to notice. Actually, that was a painting His Majesty had commissioned long ago, claiming it would comfort my longing. Before I could dispose of it properly, she had already seen it. She deliberately pretended not to see, determined to maintain a marriage that was physically close but emotionally distant. The thought made me both angry and amused. That night, I sat brooding in my study until late, returning to find her curled up, sleeping like a caterpillar. Feeling irritated, I pulled her up and gave her a few spanks to vent my anger. But she looked at me with innocent, drowsy eyes, and I softened again, holding her and kissing her endlessly. I understood this timid rabbit too well, so I planned to use the occasion of her return home to clear up all misunderstandings. After hearing everything, she stared blankly, not knowing what to think. I held her hand, cleared my throat a few times, and said seriously, "Now you understand, don't you? From the very beginning, the person I cared about was you." She suddenly cried out loudly, "Then if father had truly committed treason, wouldn't our whole family be beheaded? Thank goodness he's just someone who likes petty corruption and is weak and useless. And Jade is a spy. Does she know martial arts and sleep on roof beams?" I sighed and tapped her forehead gently. "Don't you have anything else to say to me?" She lowered her head, both ears turning red. "What else is there to say? Haven't you already read my entire diary?" Mentioning the diary made me feel indignant. "You only thought about my body, never mentioned my heart." Liang Yue made a sound and covered her face. "I like you. That's why I want to kiss you. Do you think I'd want to kiss just anyone handsome? I'm not some beauty-crazed nymphomaniac. She wouldn't discuss this topic further. I thought she was scared, like a snail hiding in its shell, not letting anyone see her soft spots. Thinking about it, it made sense. A concubine's daughter who had witnessed so many struggles in the inner court, whose mother had suffered so many losses for her sake, how could she easily give her heart away? But it didn't matter. She and I had a whole lifetime ahead of us. Liang Yue asked suspiciously again, His Majesty treats you so well. Are you perhaps his illegitimate son? I burst out laughing and pinched her nose. Don't talk nonsense. Do you know about the divine strategy general? She nodded. Our dynasty's hero. Who doesn't know him? Years ago, he led troops against the northern barbarians, but was severely wounded and died. His Majesty mourned deeply, crying for 3 days and nights, cancelling court for 3 days. The entire capital was in mourning to send off the general's soul. I remembered when my father was dying, he said, I grew up with His Majesty like hand and foot. If I die, he will bring you back to the capital and love you dearly. But the capital values literature over martial arts. I don't want you to grow up as a weak scholar. Before the imperial edict to bring me back arrived, I had already dismissed loyal servants throughout the northwest, and I severed my identity as the general's son, growing up like an orphan in the cold desert. Only then did I understand how deep my father's love was. Everyone in the army praised my military talent, but actually when I first arrived, I couldn't even beat beggars and ruffians. At 15, I joined the military camp, starting as a flag-bearing soldier and climbing up step by step. After many military achievements, the military inspector, who was my father's old friend, recognized me by my appearance, so I was appointed general and forced by His Majesty to return to the capital. After hearing this, Liang Yue's eyes grew misty and she sighed softly. When you were beaten, hungry, and thirsty, did you miss your parents? My heart tightened, and I held her for a long time before saying, at first, I missed them terribly, but later there was no time to miss them anymore. She patted her chest and promised, from now on, I'll give you good days. Don't you worry. But in my heart, I carried another burden, afraid that Charlotte's dream might be partially true. From reports from the northwest, the northern barbarians were gathering troops. Before winter, there would likely be a life-or-death battle. I feared I'd have to go to the battlefield once more. If I died, what would happen to Liang Yue? Unexpectedly, she brought it up first. I also want to go to the northwest with you, but I can't bear to leave mother behind. I held her tightly and coaxed, then stay in the capital and wait for me. Don't worry. Even if I die, His Majesty won't force you to be buried with me. The manor's wealth will be left to you. If you meet someone good in the future, just remarry. This time Liang Yue said nothing more. Until the day I prepared to leave the capital for the northwest, she didn't come to see me off. I stood at the city gates for a long time, about to mount my horse and leave, when suddenly a carriage came racing over. Liang Yue poked her head out the window and shouted, Shen Yan, wait for me, wait for me. In that instant, the blood in my body seemed to boil. I spurred my horse toward her. She patted her chest and said breathlessly, thank goodness I made it in time. I secretly brought mother from the manor. Now there's nothing holding us back. Let's go. In the carriage sat her mother, looking bewildered, not knowing what to say. I scooped Liang Yue under my arm, lifted her straight onto my horse, and kissed her several times forcefully. Liang Yue's face turned red as she hit and pushed me away. I held her against my chest, not letting her see my reddened eyes. I will treat you so well, Liang Yue. I won't die. Even with just one breath left, I'll crawl out of hell to return to your side. I can't bear to let you marry someone else. The year before, a great battle occurred in the northwest. Extremely dangerous. Shen Yan nearly lost his life. But fortunately, in the end, he drove the northern barbarian army back to their lairs. For at least 10 years, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads again. Imperial rewards from the capital arrived as if money were no object. Every year, His Majesty issued edicts urging Shen Yan to return to the capital for visits. This year, he absolutely could not delay any longer. The whole family traveled in light carriages with simple luggage, returning to the capital. As soon as they reached the city gates, Minister Liang came running out to greet them and immediately erupted in fury upon meeting. Liang Yue, you have such audacity, daring to secretly take your mother away without a word. Get out of that carriage. Don't think that being called Lady General means anything. As long as you bear the Liang name, I can still beat the skin off your bones. Liang Yue hid in the carriage, covering her ears, secretly glancing at her mother. Lady Bai poked her daughter gently and smiled. Now you're scared. Liang Yue stuck out her tongue and acted coquettishly. Mother, you wouldn't have the heart to separate from your daughter, would you? After all, I'm your biological child. How could you not take my side? Lady Bai lifted the curtain to face Minister Liang's furious expression. She said calmly, Master, it was I who ran away back then. Whether you want to sell me or beat me to death is entirely up to you. 5 years of separation. Seeing her demeanor even more charming and confident than before, Minister Liang was momentarily tongue-tied. What are you saying so seriously? Do you think I'm some heartless, ungrateful person? Shen Yan at this moment was holding a box of crispy cookies he'd just bought along the way. Catching up, he frowned and said, 5 years apart, and father-in-law starts with scolding and threats the moment we meet. Mother-in-law treated wounded soldiers in the northwest and has received court commendations. If you wish to punish her, you should petition His Majesty first before speaking. Minister Liang was left speechless, not knowing how to respond. Lady Bai originally came from a family of physicians, but later the family was involved in a lawsuit over a patient death. Her parents were killed by villains, and seeking refuge, she married him as a concubine. Unexpectedly, upon reaching the northwest, her medical skills were valued and she shone brilliantly. She was no longer the little concubine at others' mercy from years past. But in recent years, everyone said he was fortunate. His eldest daughter married the scholar with unlimited prospects. Who knew? Charlotte returned home daily crying and demanding divorce, complaining she couldn't bear the poor life with the Wei family, much less her husband's coldness. His third daughter married the general, who was extremely favored by His Majesty. More infuriatingly, this daughter had secretly taken his wife away, too. He couldn't scold her, couldn't beat her, only continuously write letters to the northwest urging her to send Lady Bai back. The result was that unfilial daughter only replied with exactly 4 words, Father, just wait. Truly glorious on the surface, but suffering behind the scenes. Liang Yue looked at the box of cookies, nearly drooling. Shen Yan laughingly handed them to her. When we passed that shop, you showed no interest. Now that we've traveled far, you remember. Recently you've been getting cravings, always wanting this and that. Lady Bai looked at her daughter's round face and had already vaguely guessed something. Upon returning to the general's manor, she immediately shared her suspicions with Shen Yan. Shen Yan jumped in shock and quickly summoned several imperial physicians to check her pulse. The result? She was indeed pregnant. Liang Yue patted her belly in amazement. Oh my, I'm going to be a mother. Shen Yan stared intently at her belly, not looking happy at all. For the next 10 days, he couldn't eat well or sleep peacefully, his whole person becoming haggard until his beard grew wild like a wandering beggar. He finally gritted his teeth and said, Liang Yue, this child cannot be kept. Liang Yue glanced at him. She knew Shen Yan's mother had died giving birth to him, leaving him with a deep shadow regarding childbirth. She used tiredness as an excuse, saying she'd drink the medicine another day. She kept postponing like this until the pregnancy was over 5 months along and her belly was clearly showing. Shen Yan regretted it so much he wanted to castrate himself. While Liang Yue wasn't idle at all. Using her knowledge of childbirth from her previous life, she passed it on to her mother. Lady Bai was enlightened and began caring for and treating several expectant mothers, delivering babies successfully in several cases. Her medical skills soared like a kite in the wind. Her daughter's childbirth was a major matter affecting life itself. She devoted all her heart and soul, not daring to be careless in the slightest. Liang Yue looked at the crowd of people frantically worrying around her, and sighed inwardly. If only she had studied medicine in her previous life. Instead, she chose that law field. After graduation, it took forever to find a job. On her very first day, following her supervisor to court, she was stabbed to death by the opposing party's family. Others worked to earn money. She worked and lost her life. Fortunately, in her previous life, she was an orphan with no attachments. Liang Yue entered the delivery room in a daze. The room was carefully prepared and sterilized clean. She had regulated her diet to keep the baby from growing too large, exercised daily, and did breathing exercises regularly. But childbirth is never painless. Though the delivery was considered smooth, Liang Yue still endured considerable hardship. The baby was born a wrinkled little girl like a small monkey. Shen Yan was the first to cry, gritting his teeth and saying, "No more children." That very night he consulted the imperial physician about contraceptive methods. The physician recommended a medicinal tea to be taken regularly. Only after understanding the method did his heart settle a bit. He finally understood that all those uncertain methods were unreliable. Only careful prevention was foolproof. Returning to the room, Liang Yue was still sleeping soundly. The baby was wrapped in swaddling clothes, sleeping in a small bed nearby. Candlelight flickered dimly in the room. Shen Yan thought, now he was truly a family man. Thank you for listening to this story on Lotus Tale Studios. If you enjoyed it, please support us with a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating tales.